Whether you're solving murders during breakfast, cracking cold cases on your commute, or playing amateur detective at bedtime, Amazon Music's got millions of podcast episodes waiting. Just download the Amazon Music app and start listening to your favorite true crime podcasts ad-free, included with Prime.
It's really not every day you hear about something like this. A sitting judge, Hannah Dugan, facing federal charges.
No, it's quite extraordinary. A Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge arrested by the FBI.
Yeah. So in this deep dive, we're jumping straight into that. What happened?
Absolutely. And in this case, well, it immediately throws a spotlight on that tricky balance, between different branches of government.
And the role of judges, immigration, law enforcement, it's complex.
Hugely complex. We've got news reports, but crucially, we also have the actual FBI affidavit filed in the case. So that gives us a pretty detailed picture.
Right. And our goal here is really to get past the headlines, understand what's actually being alleged.
Exactly. The core accusation is that a judge obstructed federal immigration officers and maybe even took steps to hide someone to prevent their arrest.
Okay. And for you listening, we want to make this clear, unpack it all without getting totally bogged down in legal jargon.
Right. Just understand what happened, the legal basis for the charges, and, the reactions. It's quite a story.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The day it all went down.
That would be April 18th, 2025. It's happening at the Milwaukee County Courthouse, specifically courtroom 615.
And who is the person sort of at the center of this initial event?
An individual named Eduardo Flores Ruiz. He's a Mexican national.
And he wasn't there for an immigration thing initially, was he?
No, that's right. He was actually there for a hearing on 3 misdemeanor battery charges, domestic abuse related.
But ICE got involved, Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Yes, ICE EORO, that's Enforcement and Removal Operations, they had identified Mr. Flores Ruiz. They determined he was in the U.S. without legal permission.
Okay.
And critically, he also had a prior order of expedited removal against him, dating back to 2013.
Expedited removal. So that often means a faster track for deportation, right? Less process.
Generally, yes. It gives ICE a more direct path to act based on that prior order.
So they knew who he was, where he'd be, and they had this prior order. What was the legal tool they were using that day? A warrant.
They had secured an administrative warrant for his arrest. That happened on or around April 17th, the day before.
An administrative warrant. Can you just quickly explain the difference? Because that seems important later.
It really is. An administrative warrant is issued internally by an immigration official. It's not like a judicial warrant, which, needs the judge's signature, that layer of court oversight.
Got it. So ICE has this administrative warrant. What was their plan?
The plan was pretty straightforward, seemingly. Arrest Mr. Flores Ruiz in a public area outside courtroom 615, but after his hearing concluded.
Okay, standard procedure maybe. And the FBI was there too. Why?
Yeah, FBI agents were involved. They were actually a part of the ICE EORO task force working on this.
So interagency cooperation?
Right. And demonstrating that the FBI agents actually told the courtroom deputy what was going on. They said, "We're here. We plan to arrest Flores Ruiz after his hearing."
So they notified court staff. What happened then? Did the deputy react?
Well, the deputy followed protocol, apparently based on a previous incident involving ICE at the courthouse. They notified their shift sergeant at the sheriff's office that ICE agents were in the building.
Okay, so the sheriff's office knew. Anyone else?
Yes, and this is interesting. An attorney from the state public defender's office was seen actually taking photos of the arrest team while they were waiting in the hallway.
Huh, taking pictures. Okay, so word is definitely getting around the courthouse. Which brings us to Judge Dugan. How does she find out?
She was actually on the bench handling other cases, totally unrelated stuff. Her clerk told her about the ICE agents outside.
And how did the clerk know?
The clerk found out from that attorney, the one who took the pictures.
Ah, okay. It's all connecting. And Judge Dugan's reaction, what do the reports say?
The FBI affidavit is pretty specific here. It says she became visibly angry, called the whole situation absurd.
Wow.
Then she left the bench, went into her chambers, and shortly after, she came out again, this time with another judge, and they approached the arrest team waiting in the public hallway.
Okay, so she didn't just stay in chambers. She went out to confront them with another judge.
That's what the affidavit alleges. Witnesses described her as visibly upset, definitely confrontational in her manner.
What happened in that confrontation? What was said?
She apparently went right up to one of the deportation officers, Officer A demanded to know if he had a judicial warrant.
The key distinction again.
Exactly. When he said no, just the administrative one, she basically said that wasn't good enough, told him to leave the courthouse or go speak to the chief judge.
So she's challenging their authority right there in the hallway.
Pretty directly, yes. And similar things were said to an FBI agent, Agent B, and a CBP officer who was also part of the team.
This is quite something. A judge telling federal agents their warrant isn't sufficient in her courthouse.
It raises big questions, doesn't it? Was she, in her mind, trying to protect the courtroom sanctity? Uphold a separation of powers by questioning that warrant type? Or something else?
Hard to know the exact motive, but the actions are clear. What happened after this confrontation? Did they leave?
Well, the other judge, who was with Judge Dugan, then escorted the arrest team away from courtroom 615, seemingly towards the chief judge's office, as Judge Dugan had demanded.
Okay, so they moved away, but Judge Dugan, what did she do next?
Her involvement wasn't over. She was seen entering a locked door near her courtroom. This door apparently leads to a non-public hallway system.
A locked door, non-public area. That sounds significant.
It certainly seems deliberate, moving into a restricted part of the courthouse after that confrontation.
Which leads us to this whole incident with the jury door. What's that about?
Right. So after that hallway confrontation, the courtroom deputy went back into courtroom 615, and things had changed.
How so?
Mr. Flores-Ruiz was now sitting inside the jury box, and his attorney was talking to the clerk, apparently about, scheduling future court dates.
In the jury box? That's not typical.
Not at all. And then Judge Dugan reappeared in the courtroom.
And what did she do then?
According to the affidavit, she looked at Flores-Ruiz and his attorney and said something like, "Wait, come with me." And then she escorted both of them through the jury door.
The jury door? Where does that go?
It leads out of the courtroom into that non-public restricted area, the same kind of area she'd entered earlier through the locked door.
That seems highly irregular. Is that door used that way often?
Absolutely not. The affidavit makes a point of this. The jury box is for jurors. The jury door is normally only used by deputies, the jury itself, court staff, maybe defendants who are in custody and being moved securely.
Not for defendants who aren't in custody and their lawyers to just walk out.
Definitely not standard procedure. It immediately raises questions about, well, why use that specific restricted exit?
Were there other people who saw this happen? Other witnesses?
Yes, several. The assistant district attorney who was there for the Flores-Ruiz hearing gave an account.
What did the ADA say?
She said Judge Dugan forcefully motioned for Flores-Ruiz's attorney and another man who she didn't recognize, presumably Flores-Ruiz, to come towards her. Then she directed them out through a back door near the jury box.
Wow. Forcefully motion them.
Yes. And the ADA also noted something else, Flores-Ruiz's actual case. It was adjourned later, but the ADA wasn't even informed about it beforehand.
So communication breakdown there, too. Anyone else see the jury door exit?
A victim witness specialist saw Judge Dugan gesture to Flores-Ruiz and his attorney, then leave with them through that jury door before his case was even officially called on the record.
There it was called. Okay.
And yet another attorney, just someone else present in the courtroom that morning, also reported seeing Judge Dugan sternly direct two people, a man and a woman, out through that same jury door.
Okay, so multiple accounts seem to corroborate Judge Dugan actively taking Flores-Ruiz and his attorney out of the courtroom via restricted exit.
The picture painted is certainly one of facilitation, avoiding the public hallway where the ICE agents had been waiting.
So did they just disappear into the non-public area? What happened after they went through the jury door?
Well, they didn't vanish. They eventually emerged back into a public hallway, but not right near courtroom 615. DEA agents, also part of that federal task force, spotted Flores-Ruiz and his attorney in a public hall. They were apparently walking quickly, briskly,
Towards an exit.
towards an elevator bank, but interestingly, one that was further away from Judge Dugan's courtroom, not the closest one.
Does that suggest anything? Trying to be less obvious, perhaps?
One could interpret it that way, yes. Maybe trying to avoid running into anyone near the original location. Hard to say for sure, but it's noted in the reports.
So they get to these elevators.
Yes, and a DEA agent actually got on the same elevator with them, followed them.
Undercover, presumably.
Doesn't specify, but they were followed. They all went down and exited the courthouse building via the 9th Street entrance.
So they made it outside. Did they get away?
No,
Yeah.
not ultimately. Once they were outside on the street, the agents identified themselves.
And then?
A foot chase started. Flores-Ruiz ran.
A chase right outside the courthouse.
Yes. It ended fairly quickly, though. He was caught near the corner of West State Street and 10th Street.
So, despite everything that happened inside with the jury door, ICE and the other agents still made the arrest.
They did. Mr. Flores Ruiz was taken into federal custody.
But that wasn't the end of it, obviously. The focus then shifted to Judge Dugan herself.
Exactly. The following Friday morning, April 25th, Judge Dugan was arrested.
Where did the arrest happen?
Right there on the courthouse grounds.
Wow. Arrested at her own workplace. What are the specific federal charges filed against her?
2 counts. First, obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency of the United States. That falls under 18 U.S.C. Section 1505.
Obstructing a proceeding. Okay. And the second?
The second is concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. That's 18 U.S.C. Section 2171, basically hiding a fugitive.
Those sound serious. What happened right after her arrest? Did she make a statement?
She had a brief initial appearance in federal court there in Milwaukee. She was released from custody shortly after.
And her lawyer?
Her attorney put out a statement. Said she wholeheartedly regrets and protests her arrest. And expressed the belief that the arrest was not made in the interest of public safety.
Okay, protesting the arrest itself. Not surprising, I suppose. And this has caused quite a stir publicly. Protests.
Oh, absolutely. Demonstrations popped up pretty quickly outside the federal courthouse, outside the FBI building, people demanding the charges be dropped.
What was the tone of those protests?
Definitely critical of the arrest and linking it to the current administration's immigration policies. Chants like immigrants are here to stay, signs about liberty and justice for all, that kind of thing.
And what about politicians and other officials? This seems like something they'd weigh in on.
They certainly have, from various sides. You had Democratic State Representative Ryan Clancy saying, functioning democracies do not lock up judges.
Strong statement.
Very. And Wisconsin's Democratic Governor Tony Evers, he accused the Trump administration of using dangerous rhetoric to, quote, attack and attempt to undermine our judiciary at every level.
So framing it as an attack on the judiciary itself.
Yes. And locally, Milwaukee Alderman Peter Burgillis called Judge Dugan a model of public service. The mayor, Cavalier Johnson, slammed the arrest too, called it ham-handed and basically showboating.
Okay, so strong defense from Democrats and local officials. What about the other side of the aisle? Republicans.
A different perspective there. Wisconsin Republican Representative Tom Tiffany was quite blunt. If you help illegal aliens evade arrest, you will be arrested.
Pretty clear stance.
And FBI Director Kash Patel stated his belief that Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents.
Okay. And the Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
She issued a very stern warning, essentially said, we don't care who you are. If you are harboring a fugitive, we will come after you and we will prosecute you. Basically drawing a hard line.
So really polarized reactions across the political spectrum. We also heard about another judge in Wisconsin reacting.
Yes, that was quite notable. Sawyer County Circuit Judge Monica Isham. She reportedly threatened to actually refuse to hold court in protest of Judge Dugan's arrest.
Refused to hold court. That's significant.
It is. She called the arrest a criminalization of judicial duty. Voiced concerns that courthouses could become, in her words, battlegrounds of fear, suggesting this could have a chilling effect, make people afraid to come to court.
That connects to broader concerns people are raising, right? And this isn't the first time a judge has faced charges like this related to immigration enforcement.
No, people are immediately drawing comparisons to the case of Judge Shelley Joseph in Massachusetts. She faced similar charges a few years back.
How did that case end?
Interestingly, the federal charges against Judge Joseph were ultimately dropped. So that precedent definitely hangs over this situation and adds another layer,
Yeah, absolutely. So stepping back from the specific events and reactions, what are the bigger picture issues this whole thing brings up?
Well, several really fundamental concerns are bubbling up. First, there's the whole issue of judicial independence. Is arresting a judge for actions taken allegedly in relation to her duties, is that intimidation? Could it make other judges hesitant?
Hesitant to do what? Rule certain ways.
Potentially. Hesitant in cases involving immigration, perhaps, or hesitant to challenge federal agents in their courthouses.
Yeah.
That's the concern being raised.
Okay. What else?
There's a real worry about access to justice. If undocumented individuals, whether they're defendants, victims, or witnesses, fear being arrested by ICE at the courthouse, will they even show up?
Right. If they're afraid to come to court, they can't participate in the justice system.
Exactly, which undermines the whole process. This leads to the debate about whether courthouses should be treated as sort of sensitive locations or safe havens where immigration enforcement is limited or maybe requires a higher standard, like a judicial warrant.
And that warrant issue keeps coming back up. Administrative versus judicial.
It's central to the debate. Is an administrative warrant issued by IC itself sufficient authority to make an arrest inside a courthouse, a place dedicated to, due process overseen by judges?
Right.
Or should a judicial warrant be required in that specific setting?
Lots of different viewpoints on that, I imagine.
For sure. We've seen it in letters to the editor, public commentary. Some people stress, look, the rule of law means enforcing all laws, including immigration laws wherever violators are found. Others emphasize due process, arguing that courthouse arrests undermine the ability of the courts to function fairly for everyone.
Some argue for the safe haven concept.
Yes, arguing it's essential for ensuring everyone feels safe enough to seek justice or participate in legal proceedings. Others point out potential flaws or errors in the immigration system itself and argue that judicial oversight, like requiring judicial warrant, is crucial, especially in a courthouse. It's a real clash of principles.
So it's clearly a really complex situation with deep implications. Just to recap the core events, Judge Dugan learns ICE is outside her courtroom to arrest someone based on an administrative warrant. She confronts them, challenges the warrant. Then, according to multiple accounts, she facilitates this person's exit through a restricted jury door.
Right. He's then arrested outside after a chase. And subsequently, she herself is arrested and faces federal obstruction and concealing charges.
And the fallout has been intense. Protests, strong statements from politicians on both sides, another judge threatening to stop work, and all these underlying questions.
Questions about judicial independence, immigration enforcement tactics, access to justice, the role of warrants, the very nature of the courthouse space.
It really forces you, the listener, to think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What does this specific incident tell us about the bigger picture? The tensions between enforcing immigration law and protecting the role of the courts right now.
Exactly. And how might something like this affect real people? Their willingness to interact with the justice system, whether they have legal status or not. It pushes us to really consider things like the separation of powers and what access to justice truly means in practice,